Hi guys, I'm Charlie, a Charlie Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I want to talk about all of the books I want to read in April. The first book I want to talk about is one I'm actually currently reading, and that is The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I picked this book up randomly from the library. I've heard about it before, but I really didn't know what it was about. It wasn't on my TBR either, but I really liked the cover, so I picked it up. And basically, I went into the first chapter without knowing anything, and I'm almost done with this story right now. I only have a couple chapters left. And this story is about a girl called Mallory and a boy called Ryder who grew up together as foster kids. They were mistreated and abused when they were children, and eventually Mallory ended up in a different foster home than Ryder, and they haven't seen each other for 4 years until they both go to the same high school and have to get to know each other all over again. And what happened to both of them? Mallory has been really scarred by her foster home. She doesn't talk much because she feels like she can't make a sound because Ryder used to take all of the beatings for her. And this is quite a lovely story. Some things have happened and I didn't see coming, but this hasn't been super surprising for me. I'm not a huge fan of the whole romance story. It feels the male main character feels a bit too perfect. I don't want this to be a wrap-up, but I think so far this is going to be a 3-star read. I already finished 2 books this month, and the first one was Season by Jonah Dyer and Stephen Dyer, and it's about this girl who has to participate in this debutante season with her sister because her mother wants her to, but the main character really doesn't feel like participating. She's more into soccer, and her mother thinks she has to give up soccer to really focus on being a debutante, but the main character is just really not interested, but she decides to do it for her mother. And this book basically follows the main character participating in this debutante season and her coming to terms with it and also falling in love meanwhile. The second book I already finished this month was Dreamfall by Amy Plum. This is basically a fantasy, thriller, horror kind of story. It's about these 7 kids that participate in an experiment. They all suffer from some sort of sleeping disorder, and this experiment is electroconvulsive therapy, and they hope it will cure their insomnia. So they are all brought into sleep and are getting electroconvulsive therapy, but then the power shuts off and all of these seven children end up in a coma, but they're not really in a coma because they're still dreaming and having these nightmares, but they can see each other in these nightmares and they get to know each other during these nightmares. We get to see 2 perspectives from children inside the nightmares, and we also get to see one perspective from someone who is outside and who is with the scientists that performed this experiment. I liked both the season and Dreamfall. I rated the season 3 stars and Dreamfall 3.5 stars. Both didn't blow me away, but I had a fun time reading them, especially Dreamfall, because it was something so different from what I usually read. Then I want to get to the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series, which is Empire of Storms. I believe this is the most recently released installment in this series, and if I've read this one, I've read every single book that Sarah J. Maas has published so far, which is crazy because I'm not a huge fan of her works, but I did like Queen of Shadows, which is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series. So I want to move on with the 5th book for Tome Topple, which is a readathon where you're supposed to read big books, like books with over 500 pages. And Empire of Storms almost has 700 pages, so it definitely fulfills that requirement. But I am sort of excited about Empire of Storms. I'm excited to be caught up with this series, I have to say. But I really do want to know how this whole series is going to wrap up. And I've come so far, like I feel like I need to read every single book in this series right now. I've read almost all of Maas's books, so it would be kind of a bummer to just quit here now while I'm almost done with it and almost know the full plot of the story. I also finally want to get to the 2nd volume in the Miss Marvel series, which is Generation Y. I read the 1st volume, No Normal, a couple months ago, and I actually really enjoyed it. But then I ordered the 2nd volume and I never got around to it. Well, it's such an easy and quick read and I really enjoyed the series. So I am excited about continuing on with the series this month, and maybe, if I really like it, ordering the 3rd volume. Miss Marvel is about this girl called Kamala Khan who is Miss Marvel, and the first volume was basically her origin story as Miss Marvel, but Kamala Khan is Muslim and you see her going to the mosque and being a student at a high school while also saving the day. Then I also want to read another random book. It wasn't on my TBR before, but it's for the 2017 Diversity Bingo Challenge, and that is Reality Boy by A.S. King. And Reality Boy is about a main character who has anger issues. And the main character feels like he's dangerously close to snapping, and he feels like everyone around him is kind of expecting that as well. I honestly don't really know what drew me to this in the first place. I think it was for my All About You challenge. The challenge for this month was read your Chinese zodiac sign, so I believe my Chinese zodiac sign was the tiger, so there's an R in there, and I chose Reality Boy for the letter R, and I didn't have a book with an R on my TBR, so I just went out and looked for one, and this one sounded interesting. And the last book I want to get to is the Ostentatious Book Club Classic. And Ostentation is basically a classic book club, and the classic for the months of April and May is actually Anne of Green Gables, which is the first book in the series of the same name by Montgomery. And honestly, I would have never thought I would read Anne of Green Gables one day. Like, I ordered from Book Depository, but it hasn't arrived yet. But honestly, I was never really interested in Anne of Green Gables. But because the Ostentatious Book Club is reading it, and I am following along with that, I am actually reading Anne of Green Gables. Do I have any clue what Anne of Green Gables is about? Not really, but I'm going to look up the summary and tell you what it's about. It's apparently about this family that expects a foster boy to show up, but then they get a little girl to help them out at the farm. And the family gets close with this little girl called Anne. And I think it's basically about all of the adventures and experiences at this farm and her relationship with this new family she's come into. I feel like it's a huge series as well. Like, I've seen people talk about so many of the books in this series, and I'm like, when does this end? It actually has 8 books in this series. Let's just try the first one. Okay? And then the most exciting part of this TBR, my challenge TBR jar. Let's go. I want this. I just literally ripped one in half. This is not what I expected. A book from an author you love, you haven't read yet. That is exciting. I actually know. I ordered recently The Walled City by Graudin from Book Depository, and it still hasn't arrived because it is in the same order as Anne of Green Gables. And I love the Wolf by Wolf duology by Graudin, so I am going to be reading The Walled City when it arrives. And The Walled City follows 3 main characters. It is a science fiction book that's about Dyer, who is a drug dealer, Yin, who's hiding from wild street gangs, and Yin, who has been trapped in a brothel for the past 2 years. It's about these 3 main characters and obviously how their lives intersect in this science fiction story, and I am super excited about it. So this is my TBR for the month of April. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, or what you are going to be reading in April. I would love to know. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!